Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, my wonderful eighth grade students. Today I'm going to read you this lesson here. It's the one about the Philadelphia Convention setup. The title of the assignment is We the People textbook. Who attended the Philadelphia Convention and how was it organized? I love this lesson because it does give you a little insight into how scared um, the founders were when it came to having a discussion about how screwed up our government was. Really pay attention to the rules in this one. So anyways, in this lesson, you're going to learn about the Philadelphia Convention of 1787, and you'll learn about some of the framers who attended the convention. You'll also learn about the decisions that the framers made at the start of the meeting. Um, so I want you to understand why Congress called for the Philadelphia Convention and explain some of the decisions that the delegates made at the start of the meeting. And then the rest of this week, we're going to get into the discussion. So here we go. Who attended the Philadelphia Convention? Congress called for a meeting to be held in Philadelphia in 1787. The members of Congress invited each state to send delegates. This important meeting today is known as the Philadelphia Convention. The purpose of the convention was to search for ways to improve the Articles of Confederation. At the end of the meeting, the delegates would submit a plan for Congress to approve. As far as members of Congress were concerned, the role of the delegates was advisory, but something very different was about to happen. 55 delegates attended the meeting. These delegates are called the framers of the Constitution. All of them were men. Most were young. The average age was 42. Most had played an important role in the American Revolution. About three-fourths of the delegates had served in Congress. Most were leaders in their states. Some were rich, most were not, but nobody was poor. The lives of all the framers are worth learning about in detail, and we will mention only a few. And there's a video posted about James Madison in your assignment. James Madison of Virginia is known as the father of the Constitution. This guy was a nerd. His influence during the convention was great. This was partly because Madison brought with him a plan for creating a stronger national government. He's the guy that when you get assigned a group project, that he already has an idea about how the project is going to go. That's exactly how he acted. He had a plan in place. Much of what we know today about what happened at the convention is based on his notes. Even though he wasn't supposed to take notes, he took notes. George Washington, you probably know about him. Washington was probably the most respected and honored man in the country. He was convinced that a stronger national government was necessary, but he did not talk about it publicly. He did not want to become involved in politics. He preferred to return to Mount Vernon, Virginia, his home, to be a farmer. He thought that he had served enough. At first, Washington refused to attend the convention. He finally agreed. Washington was afraid that if he did not attend, people might think that he had lost his faith in Republican government. Those of you that are going to Philadelphia, you're going to look into that room. Won't be able to walk in there, but yeah. All right, my boy, Benjamin Franklin was 81 years old and in poor health. He attended the convention as a delegate from the state of Pennsylvania. Franklin was one of the most respected men in America and all over the world. He was one of the guys that was responsible for getting French help during the American Revolution. He had a long and distinguished career as a printer, inventor, writer, revolutionary, peacemaker, and diplomat. Franklin's primary role during the convention was to encourage the delegates to cooperate with each other when they disagreed. He also supported the important compromise reached during the convention. Governor Morris. Morris was from New York. He had served in the state militia and in the New York legislature. Morris had also been a member of the Continental Congress. He was an exceptionally good speech maker during the convention, and he played an important role in writing the Constitution and prepared its final draft. I know in this assignment that you have to do for my class, you're going to have to research another person from the Philadelphia Convention. Those that are listed in the book are great. And you guys are going to do this in class, actually. This part here, organizing a constitutional convention. So I'm not going to read this part, but we are going to do that in class. So here we go. Who did not attend the convention? Some important Americans did not attend the Philadelphia Convention. Thomas Jefferson was in France. He took over for Benjamin Franklin and John Jay as being diplomats to our big ally there. John Adams was in England. John Adams was a big fan of England. He was the lawyer that defended the Boston Massacre soldiers, but we also wanted to keep the peace with England because we didn't want to end up in war with them, so we had him over there too. Both men were in Europe representing the United States. Patrick Henry refused to attend the convention. He is quoted as saying, "I smell a rat." He was against the idea of a strong national government. Henry thought the delegates would not work on improving the Articles of Confederation. He was right. He suspected that the delegates would instead write a new constitution that would result in a strong national government. Also correct. After the convention, Patrick Henry worked hard to get the people to reject the new constitution. So what you're saying is the history of our country is literally people not liking what our government does? Huh, that's crazy. Either way, here we go. Not all segments of the American population were represented at the Philadelphia Convention. There were no women among the delegates. There were no African Americans or American Indians. Poor farmers, like those who took part in Shays' Rebellion, were not present either. The Rhode Island state legislature refused to send delegates to the convention. Citizens there were fiercely independent and hostile to the idea of a new constitution. We'll get back to Rhode Island later because Rhode Island has a pretty funny history with our constitution. They didn't like it. What rules did the framers agree to follow during the convention? This is my favorite part. I love this. By May 25th, 1787, delegates from 11 states had arrived at the convention. We call the delegates framers because they framed or shaped and wrote the U.S. Constitution. The framers all agreed that George Washington should preside over the meetings. At the start of the convention, the framers agreed on three things. They would agree that they would, one, not try to find ways to improve the Articles of Confederation as Congress had asked them to do. The framers thought the problems were too serious to try to correct them. Instead, the framers decided to write a new constitution. Number two, keep the record of what was said at the convention a secret for 30 years. Here's why. The reason for secrecy was that the framers wanted to develop the best constitution possible. Many feared that if their discussions were made public, the delegates would not express their opinions freely. Also, the framers did not want people from the outside trying to influence what they were doing. Finally, the framers wanted the new constitution to be accepted. A new constitution would have a greater chance of being approved if people did not know about the arguments that went on during the convention. Now, that is up for debate. Should they have done that? Should they have not? I think with 21st century thinking now, this would, like, Americans don't like to have secrets, full stop. So that rules. That's why I love this stuff. Give each state, the third and final one, give each state one vote at the convention proceedings, no matter the size of the state's population. The reason for this decision was to gain the cooperation of the small states. Delaware, for example, had threatened to withdraw from the convention if states with large populations were given more votes than states with small populations. So again, compromise had to be reached. The most popular states, they didn't get all the power. So that's cool to know. What ideas about government did the framers agree to include in the new Constitution? The framers agreed that certain basic ideas about government should be included in the new Constitution. These included the idea that, one, the national government should be a constitutional government, that is, a government of limited powers. Can't do whatever it wants. Next, the purpose of government should be to protect fundamental rights and promote the common good. Key thing here is government shouldn't act to protect individuals. They want to protect the common good. So it's probably a good idea for me to go over what the common good is. The common good is something that benefits everybody. And not everybody has the same idea about the common good. For example, let's pretend that there is a tax to raise money for schools. Okay. And, that's a real life thing. A lot of people pay property tax. Like if you own a home, you have to pay property tax, and some of that property tax money goes towards schools and education. But what happens if you're 70 years old, you're living on a fixed income, and you deal with this property tax? You don't have any kids in the education system. They're all, maybe you didn't have kids, or maybe they're all graduated. So why should you have to pay taxes towards the school system? But again, it benefits the common good because everybody wins when you're all educated. At least that's my opinion. And that's the thing. You have to remember this government that we created was supposed to be created to benefit as many people as possible, the common good, and not individual citizens. Got it? Cool. Next, we needed a strong national government to protect fundamental rights. Again, Shays Rebellion, something that really freaked a lot of people out because our government had no way to protect, people. Either way, next, a Republican form of government of elected representatives was needed to make sure that government served the common good. So again, we want to have representatives do the job of governing for us because what do Americans not like to do? Work in government. It takes a very special person to be somebody who is involved in government. And then finally, we wanted to develop a system of separation of powers, and checks and balances was needed to prevent the abuse of power. And because of their agreement on basic ideas about government, the framers were able to write a new constitution. In less than 4 months, they created a constitution that has lasted, with some revisions, for more than 200 years. And the big thing here in this assignment is that I want you to research somebody who attended the convention, and do not just copy and paste what you have from the Constitution Day activities. The more people that you learn about in terms of what they wanted from our government, I think that is a good way to inform you for the 21st century on what you want our government to do. So with that being said, I love you. That ends this video. And yeah, let's have fun in class. Bye.